The morning sun cast long shadows across New Terra Colony, as 8-year-old Hana Kim pressed her nose against the window of her family's small home. Beyond the metal walls and energy barriers that kept the colony safe, the whispering woods stretched endlessly toward the horizon. The alien trees swayed without any wind, their silver leaves catching the light like tiny mirrors. "Hana, come eat your breakfast," called her mother Mira from the kitchen. Mira worked as the colony's medical officer, always busy taking care of sick people or studying new medicines from alien plants. Hana turned away from the window but kept glancing back at the forest. She had lived on New Terra her whole life, but the woods still filled her with wonder. Sometimes at night she could see strange lights dancing between the trees. The other children said monsters lived there, but Hana thought they looked more like fairy lights from the old Earth stories her parents told her. Her father, June, sat at the small table, looking at his data pad while eating toast. He studied the plants and animals of New Terra, trying to understand how everything worked together. Today he seemed more excited than usual. "The energy readings from Sector 7 are very interesting," June said to Mira. "I think we found something new growing near the crystal formations." Mira sat down with her coffee. "Is it safe to check out?" "Should be fine during the day. The dangerous creatures stay deeper in the woods. I was thinking of taking Hana with me. She has good eyes for spotting things I miss." Hana looked up from her cereal, her heart jumping with excitement. "Really? Can I go into the woods with you?" Her parents looked at each other. They had taken her on short trips to the edge of the forest before, but never very far. The colony had rules about staying close to the barriers. "Just to the outer section," June said. "We'll be back before dark and I'll bring the emergency beacon." An hour later, Hana walked beside her father through the colony gates. She wore her explorer outfit, thick boots, long pants, and a jacket with many pockets. Her small backpack held water, snacks, and a junior scanner that beeped when it found interesting plants. The moment they stepped into the whispering woods, Hana felt the difference. The air smelled sweet and clean, nothing like the recycled air in the colony. Strange bird calls echoed from high in the trees, and something rustled in the bushes nearby. "Stay close," June reminded her as they followed a narrow path. "And remember what I taught you about the red flowers. Don't touch them because they make people sleepy," Hana recited. She had learned many rules about the forest plants. Some could heal cuts, others could make you very sick, and a few could even glow in the dark. They walked for 20 minutes before reaching a clearing where tall crystal spikes grew from the ground like frozen lightning. The crystals hummed softly, creating a gentle music that made Hana feel peaceful. Her scanner beeped rapidly as they approached. "Amazing," June whispered, taking pictures with his camera. "These crystals are growing faster than we thought. And look at these vines." Purple vines with golden spots had wrapped around several crystals. They pulsed with soft light, creating patterns that reminded Hana of heartbeats. She was so busy watching the pretty lights that she almost missed the small creature hiding behind a large crystal. It looked like a tiny dragon made of starlight. Its body was no bigger than her hand, with wings that seemed made of clear glass. When it moved, it left trails of sparkling dust in the air. "Dad, look," Hana whispered, pointing at the creature. But as soon as June turned to look, the little dragon darted deeper into the woods. Without thinking, Hana followed it. "Hana, wait," June called, but she was already running between the trees. The creature stayed just ahead of her, always visible but never close enough to touch. It led her down paths she had never seen before, past flowers that changed colors as she walked by and trees that chimed like bells when the wind touched their leaves. Behind her she could hear her father calling her name, but his voice seemed far away. The forest was so beautiful and magical that she forgot about staying close. She just wanted to see where the star dragon would take her. The creature finally stopped at the edge of a small pond with water so clear it looked like liquid glass. Strange fish with too many fins swam in lazy circles below the surface. The star dragon perched on a stone at the water's edge and looked at Hana with eyes like tiny suns. "You're so pretty," Hana whispered, slowly reaching out her hand. That's when the sky above her began to change. Dark clouds rolled in from nowhere, and the air started to feel heavy and electric. The star dragon squeaked in alarm and flew away, disappearing into the thick trees. Thunder crashed overhead so loud it made Hana's ears hurt. Lightning flashed in colors she had never seen before, purple, green, and silver, all at once. The storm was not like the weather back on Earth that her parents had described. This was something alien and dangerous. Rain began to fall, but it felt warm and tingly on her skin. The drops glowed faintly as they hit the ground, creating pools of light around her feet. Hana realized she was lost and scared. She could no longer hear her father's voice over the sound of the storm. She looked around the clearing, trying to remember which way she had come, but all the paths looked the same now. The glowing rain made everything look different, and the storm was getting stronger. "Dad," she called out, but her voice seemed tiny against the thunder. "Dad, where are you?" Lightning struck a tree nearby, splitting it in half with a crack that shook the ground. Hana ran toward what she hoped was the right path, but the storm followed her. The wind picked up, bending the alien trees and sending strange leaves flying through the air like colorful snow. She stumbled and fell, scraping her knee on a sharp rock. When she looked up, she realized she was completely lost. Every direction looked the same, endless trees and flashing lightning and the warm, glowing rain that made her skin feel strange. Far away, she could hear her father shouting her name, but she could not tell which direction the sound came from. The electromagnetic storm was getting worse, and Hana Kim was alone in the heart of the whispering woods with night beginning to fall around her. The adventure had turned into something much more dangerous than anyone had expected. 3 days had passed since Hana Kim disappeared into the whispering woods. The storm had finally ended, but it left the forest changed. New plants grew where lightning had struck, and the very air felt different. The electromagnetic waves still made all the colony's equipment work poorly, turning their search into a nightmare. Dae Choi stood at the edge of the forest, his security uniform wet with morning dew. He had not slept properly since the little girl went missing. As the colony's security chief, he felt responsible for every person who lived in New Terra. Losing a child on his watch felt like the worst failure of his life. "Any sign of her today?" asked Dr. Sue Lee as she joined him at the forest edge. The chief scientist had been helping with the search, using every scanner and detector the colony owned. Dae shook his head. "The electromagnetic interference is still too strong. Our trackers can't lock onto anything human-sized. It's like the forest is hiding her from us." Behind them, 20 volunteers prepared for another day of searching. They carried ropes, medical supplies, and emergency food. Some were parents themselves, and they understood the fear that June and Mira felt. The whole colony had come together. To find Hana June emerged from the group looking tired and desperate. He had barely eaten or slept since his daughter disappeared. His clothes were torn from pushing through thick bushes, and his hands were covered in scratches from alien thorns. "I'm going deeper today," June announced, "past the crystal formations, into the areas we've never mapped." "That's too dangerous," Dae replied. "We don't know what lives in the deep forest." The few explorers who went that far reported strange sounds and movement in the shadows. "My daughter is out there somewhere," June said, his voice breaking. "I won't give up on her." Mira approached her husband and took his hand. Her medical training told her that Hana had little chance of surviving 3 days alone in the alien wilderness, but her heart refused to accept that truth. "We'll find her," she whispered. "We have to." The search teams spread out into the forest, following paths that grew fainter with each step. The volunteers called Hana's name, their voices echoing among the strange trees. But the whispering woods seemed to swallow sound, making everything feel quiet and empty. Miles away, deeper in the forest than any human had ever traveled, Hana lay unconscious beside a formation of rainbow crystals. She had been wandering for 3 days, drinking from streams and eating berries that her father had taught her were safe. But the alien forest was too big and too strange for a lost 8-year-old. Her lips were dry and cracked. Her small body shivered even though the air was warm. The colorful clothes her mother had dressed her in were now torn and dirty. She looked very small and fragile against the massive crystal spires that surrounded her. as the sun began to set. On the third day, shadows moved between the trees around her. At first they looked like ordinary darkness, but then they took shape. 6 creatures emerged from the forest, moving with the silent grace of professional hunters. They were unlike anything the human colonists had ever seen clearly. Each creature was as large as an earth wolf but built differently. They had 6 legs instead of 4, with paws that could grip like hands. Their fur looked like it was made of tiny crystals, catching the last sunlight and throwing it back in rainbow patterns. Most striking were their eyes. Each creature had 4 eyes arranged in pairs, and they glowed with soft silver light. When they looked at something, they seemed to see far more than what was visible on the surface. The pack leader approached Hana carefully. The other creatures formed a circle around the unconscious child, their crystal fur standing on end as they sensed something unusual about her. In their own language of soft growls and mental images, they spoke to each other. This was not prey. This was something else, something lost and far from home. The pack leader, who would have been called Shadowmane if humans could understand his name, bent his large head toward Hana. His sensitive nose detected the strange scent of human fear and sickness, but also something else. Something that resonated with the same frequencies his pack used to communicate with each other. When he touched Hana's forehead with his nose, her mind brushed against his. For just a moment he felt her dreams, images of a metal colony, of loving parents, of bright rooms filled with human laughter. He saw her terror during the storm and her growing weakness as she wandered lost through his territory. The pack had never encountered a human child before. Adult humans had sometimes entered their forest, but they stayed near the edges and left quickly. This small creature was different. She was alone, helpless, and somehow her thoughts sang in harmonies that reminded Shadowmane of his own cubs. The other pack members sensed their leader's decision before he made it. They were predators, but they were also parents and protectors. Their own young were precious to them, and this lost child triggered the same protective instincts. As Hana's breathing became weaker, Shadowmane made a choice that would change everything. He called his pack together in a tight circle around the dying human child. Their 4 eyes began to glow brighter, and they started a sound that was part growl, part song, and part something else entirely. The sound came from deep in their chests, vibrating through their crystal fur and into the ground beneath them. The rainbow crystals around them began to respond, humming in harmony with the pack's voices. Energy flowed between the creatures and the stones, creating patterns of light that danced across Hana's pale face. Back at the colony, Dr. Su Li's instruments detected a massive energy spike from deep within the forest. The readings were unlike anything she had ever seen, organized, purposeful, and somehow alive. She stared at her screens, trying to understand what could create such patterns. "Day," she called over her radio. "You need to see this. Something big is happening in the deep forest." But the electromagnetic interference made her voice unclear, and the search teams were too far away to respond. They would not discover what Dr. Su Li had detected until much later. In the crystal clearing, the pack's ritual continued through the night. They were attempting something that had never been done before, sharing their life force with a creature from another world. The risk was enormous, but Shadowmane could feel the child's spirit calling out for help. As dawn approached, Hana's eyes fluttered open for the first time in 2 days. But they were no longer entirely human eyes. Something had changed during the long night. Something that would make her part of 2 worlds instead of 1. Hana woke up feeling different. The pain in her throat was gone, and her body no longer felt weak and heavy. She could see clearly even though the forest around her was still dark with early morning shadows. Most strange of all, she could hear thoughts that were not her own. The crystal-furred creatures sat in a circle around her, their silver eyes watching her carefully. She should have been afraid, but instead she felt safe and warm. Their thoughts touched her mind like gentle whispers, full of concern and something that felt like love. The largest one, with fur that sparkled like stars, moved closer to her. When he looked at her, images appeared in her mind. She saw herself, lying sick and still, saw the creatures sharing their energy to save her life, saw them protecting her through the long night. "You helped me," she whispered. And somehow she knew he understood even though he could not speak human words. The creature she would learn to call Shadowmane sent her feelings of agreement and warmth. The other pack members approached slowly, each one touching her gently with their strange hands that were part paw and part fingers. Through their touch, she felt their names and personalities flow into her mind. There was Moon Whisper, a female with silver streaks in her fur who was very wise. Starrunner was young and playful, always ready for adventure. Crystal Song had the most beautiful voice when the pack sang together. Nightwind was the fastest runner, and Dreamwalker could sense danger before it happened. As the sun rose higher, Hana discovered that her body had changed along with her mind. She could hear sounds from very far away, the drip of water in a distant cave, the call of birds high in the treetops, even the whisper of wind through leaves. She could smell things she had never noticed before, like the different scents that told her which plants were good to eat. Most amazing of all, she could understand what the forest was telling her. The patterns of broken twigs showed her where animals had walked. The way flowers turned toward the sun told her which direction was which. Even the crystal formations seemed to hum with information about safe paths and hidden dangers. Shadowmane stood up and sent her an image of water and food. Hana realized she was very hungry and thirsty, but she no longer felt the desperate panic of being lost. The pack would take care of her. They led her through the forest along paths that looked invisible to normal eyes. Hana found she could see the tracks now, the subtle signs that showed which way to go. The pack moved like flowing water, silent and graceful, and somehow she found she could move the same way. At a small spring with water that tasted better than anything from the colony, Hana drank deeply while the pack kept watch. Moon Whisper showed her which berries to pick, which roots could be eaten, and which flowers made good medicine. The knowledge flowed from the older female's mind into Hana's, teaching her things human scientists had never learned. "My parents," Hana said suddenly, remembering June and Mira. "They must be so worried." Shadowmane sent her images of the human search parties still looking in the wrong areas of the forest. He showed her how the electromagnetic storm had damaged their equipment, making it impossible for them to track her. The pack had been watching the humans for days, but they stayed hidden, as always. Hana felt torn between two worlds. She loved her human family and wanted to see them again, but she also felt connected to the pack in a way she had never experienced before. They had saved her life and shared their gifts with her. Now she was part of their family too. Over the next few days, the pack taught her how to survive in the Whispering Woods. She learned to climb the crystal trees using the handholds that only those with pack sight could see. She discovered how to call the helpful small creatures who could find lost items or warn of danger. Most importantly, she learned the pack's way of moving through the forest without disturbing its balance. In return, Hana's human mind brought new ideas to the pack. She showed them how to use tools, how to make simple machines from forest materials, and how to solve problems in ways they had never considered. When Crystal Song got his paw stuck in a crack between rocks, it was Hana who thought to use a long stick as a lever to free him. The pack was amazed by human creativity. They had lived in the forest for countless generations, following the same patterns their ancestors had used. But Hana could see new possibilities everywhere. She could imagine different ways to do things, and her imagination sparked new ideas, in their minds too. Meanwhile, back at New Terra Colony, Dr. Su Li continued to detect strange energy patterns from deep in the forest. The readings were unlike anything in her databases. They seemed organized and purposeful, almost like communications between intelligent beings. The energy spikes happen in patterns, she explained to Day Choi as they studied her data. Look at these frequencies. They're not random. Something is creating these signals on purpose. Day frowned at the screens. You think there might be intelligent life in the deep forest? More advanced than the simple creatures we've cataloged? I think whatever is out there might be related to Hana's disappearance, Dr. Su Li replied. The strongest reading started the night she went missing. At the colony's small hospital, Mira sat by the window, staring out at the forest where her daughter had vanished. She had barely left the medical center since the search began, hoping against hope that Hana would be brought back injured but alive. June had not returned from his latest search expedition. He was spending longer and longer periods in the forest, pushing deeper into unexplored areas despite the dangers. The other volunteers were starting to worry about him too. "We need to organize a systematic search of the deep forest," Day announced at the daily meeting. "Whatever Dr. Su Li is detecting, we need to investigate it. It might be our best clue to finding Hana. But organizing such an expedition would take time, and they would need special equipment to survive in the unexplored regions. Time that Hana's parents feared they did not have. Deep in the forest, Hana was learning skills that no human had ever possessed. The pack's gifts had changed her in ways that would shape her entire future. She was becoming something new, not quite human and not quite alien, but a bridge between two very different worlds. As she ran through the crystal trees with her pack family, laughing at Starrunner's playful antics, Hana did not know that her two worlds were about to face a danger that would require everything she had learned from both. A week after Hana disappeared, the colony faced a new problem. Something was attacking the energy barriers that kept New Terra safe. The attacks came at night, when the forest was darkest and the strange sounds were loudest. Day Choi stood on the observation deck, watching the barrier flicker under another assault. Large insect-like creatures threw themselves against the energy field, their bodies crackling with electricity as they hit the protective wall. Some were as big as ground cars, with wings that buzzed like broken machines and eyes that glowed, red in the darkness. "They're called Veil Reapers," Dr. Su Li said as she joined him. She held a tablet showing pictures of the attacking creatures. "I found them in our old survey files. They usually stay deep in the forest and hunt smaller prey." "Why are they coming here now?" Day asked. "We've been on this planet for 15 years without major problems." "I think it's connected to the electromagnetic storms," Dr. Su Li replied. "The energy disruptions seem to have changed their behavior. They're more aggressive, more organized, almost like something is driving them toward us." More Veil Reapers emerged from the forest, their chittering calls filling the night air. The colony's barriers held, but everyone could see they were weakening under the constant attacks. If the insects kept coming in larger numbers, the defenses would eventually fail. Far away in the deep forest, Hana felt the pack's alarm through their mental connection. She was learning to hunt with Starrunner and Nightwind when Shadowmane's urgent thoughts reached all of them at once. Images flooded her mind, swarms of Veil Reapers moving through the forest, destroying everything in their path. The pack gathered quickly in a clearing where ancient crystal formations created a natural meeting place. Through their shared thoughts, Hana learned what was happening. The electromagnetic storms had damaged more than just human equipment. They had disrupted the natural balance that kept the Veil Reapers in check. Moon Whisper showed her mental images of how the forest normally worked. The Veil Reapers lived in the deepest caves, feeding on small creatures and staying away from the light. But special plants that grew near crystal formations produced sounds that kept the insects calm and sleepy. The storms had killed many of these plants. Without the calming influence, the Veil Reapers were becoming more and more aggressive. They were forming larger swarms and attacking anything that moved. First they had destroyed other forest creatures, and now they were moving toward the human colony. Crystal Song shared his observations from the Southern Territory. Entire sections of forest were becoming dead zones where nothing could live. The Veil Reapers consumed everything: plants, animals, even the smaller crystal formations that helped maintain the forest's energy balance. "The pack has been fighting them," Shadowmane's thoughts told Hana. "But there are too many. They grow stronger while we grow weaker." Hana felt the pack's fear and exhaustion. They had been battling the Veil Reapers for days, trying to protect their territory and their young. Several pack members had been injured and they were running out of safe places to rest. Through her connection with both worlds, Hana began to understand something that neither humans nor pack had realized. The colony and the forest faced the same enemy. If the Veil Reapers destroyed the natural balance of the woods, they would eventually overrun New Terra too. And if the human barriers failed, the insects would spread even further. We need to work together, Hana said aloud, her words mixing with the mental images she shared with the pack. Humans have technology that could help. The pack knows the forest better than anyone. Together we might be able to stop them. But Shadowmane's response was doubtful. The pack had always stayed hidden from humans. They did not trust the metal makers, who changed the forest with their machines and barriers. Many pack members believed humans were responsible for the problems in the first place. Dreamwalker sent worried thoughts about revealing themselves. What if the humans tried to capture them or drive them away? What if they wanted to study the pack like specimens instead of treating them as equals? Hana felt the pack's dilemma deeply. She understood their fear because she had felt it herself, when she first woke up surrounded by alien creatures. But she also knew her human family and their friends. They were good people who cared about all living things. My father studies the forest because he wants to protect it, she explained through thoughts and simple words. My mother heals people because she believes all life is precious. They would understand. As if summoned by her thoughts, sounds of approaching humans echoed through the forest. Dr. Su Li had finally convinced Day to organize an expedition to investigate the energy readings. They were getting closer to the pack's territory than any humans had come before. The pack tensed, ready to flee deeper into the woods. But Hana made a decision that surprised everyone, including herself. Instead of hiding, she started walking toward the approaching search team. Wait, Shadowmane called to her. It is dangerous. They might not accept what you have become. Hana turned back to look at her pack family. Someone has to be the bridge, she said. Someone has to help both sides understand each other. Maybe that's why this happened to me. Through the trees, she could hear Dr. Su Li's voice directing the search team. They were following the energy readings that the pack's communications created, not knowing they were about to make first contact with intelligent alien life. Stay close but stay hidden, Hana asked the pack. Let me talk to them first. If something goes wrong, you can still run away, the pack agreed reluctantly. They would trust their human cub, but they would be ready to protect her if the meeting went badly. As Hana walked toward the voices of the search team, she felt the weight of two worlds on her small shoulders. Everything that happened next would determine whether humans and pack could work together to save both the colony and the forest. Behind her, the Veil Reapers grew bolder and more numerous. Time was running out for everyone, and the success or failure of first contact would decide the fate of New Terra and everything living in the Whispering Woods. The sound of breaking branches announced that the two worlds were about to meet face to face for the first time in the planet's history. Dr. Su Li stopped walking when she saw the small figure emerge from between the crystal trees. At first, she thought her eyes were playing tricks on her. The child looked like Hana Kim, but something was different. Her movements were too smooth, too quiet, and her eyes seemed to glow with silver light. Hana? Dr. Su Li whispered, hardly daring to believe it. Behind her, the search team froze in amazement. Day Choi reached for his radio to call the other groups, but Hana held up her hand to stop him. Please don't be afraid, Hana said, her voice carrying strange harmonics that seemed to echo from the crystal formations around them. I have friends with me, and they're very nervous about meeting humans. Before anyone could ask what she meant, shadows moved in the forest behind her. 6 massive creatures stepped into view, their crystal fur catching the sunlight and throwing rainbow patterns across the clearing. The search team gasped, and several people reached for their weapons. No, Hana said firmly, moving to stand between the humans and the pack. They saved my life. They're the reason I'm still alive. Dr. Su Li stared at the alien creatures, her scientific mind racing to understand what she was seeing. The energy, readings her instruments had detected suddenly made sense. These beings were the source of the organized signals she had been tracking. Shadowmane stepped forward carefully, his 4 silver eyes studying the humans with equal curiosity and caution. When Hana placed her small hand on his massive head, he sent calming thoughts to his packmates. This is Shadowmane, Hana explained, somehow understanding that the humans needed her to translate. He's the pack leader. They call themselves the Crystal Hunters, and they've lived in this forest for thousands of years. Dae Choi found his voice first. Hana, your parents have been searching for you every day. They're desperate to know you're safe. I know, Hana replied, and for a moment, she sounded like the 8-year-old child they remembered. I want to see them too. But first, we have a bigger problem to solve. Through her connection with the pack, Hana shared what she had learned about the Veil Reapers. She explained how the electromagnetic storms had disrupted the forest's balance, making the insect swarms more aggressive and dangerous. They're not just attacking the colony, she said. They're destroying everything. If we don't stop them, both humans and pack will lose their homes. Dr. Su Lee listened with growing understanding. The energy disruptions we detected, they were your pack trying to coordinate their defenses against these creatures. Moonwhisper approached slowly and touched Dr. Su Lee's hand with her strange paw fingers. Images flowed between them, scenes of Veil Reapers swarming through the forest, destroying crystal formations and consuming everything in their path. She's showing me what's happening, Dr. Su Lee gasped. I can see it in my mind. The damage is worse than we realized. Crystal Song shared his knowledge of the insect's weaknesses. The Veil Reapers were sensitive to certain sound frequencies, the same ones that the destroyed plants used to keep them calm. But creating those sounds required both the pack's natural abilities and technology the humans possessed. Your people can make machines that produce the right sounds, Hana translated as Shadowmane shared his thoughts. But the pack knows exactly which frequencies work and where the sounds need to be placed in the forest. Dae Choi was thinking like a security chief. We have sonic generators back at the colony. They're usually used for crowd control, but we could modify them to produce different frequencies. The pack can carry them to the right locations, Hana added excitedly. They know secret paths through the forest that humans have never found. Dr. Su Lee was already making plans. We'll need to work quickly. According to what I'm seeing in these mental images, the largest swarm will reach the colony barriers within 2 days. Nightwind suddenly tensed and sent urgent warnings to the pack. Through the forest, the sound of buzzing wings and chittering calls announced that a group of Veil Reapers was approaching their location. We need to go now, Hana said. There's a scouting swarm coming this way. The humans and pack moved together through the forest, following paths that only the alien creatures could see. As they traveled, Hana served as translator while Dr. Su Lee and Shadowmane worked out the details of their plan. They would need 3 teams working together. The pack would place sonic generators at key points around the Veil Reaper breeding grounds. Human technicians would monitor and adjust the equipment from a safe distance, and a joint combat team would handle any insects that broke through the sound barriers. When they reached the edge of the deep forest, June and Mira were waiting with another search group. The reunion between parents and daughter was tearful and joyful, but also complicated by the changes they saw in Hana. You're different, Mira whispered as she held her child. Not hurt, but different. I'm still me, Hana assured her parents, but I'm also part of something bigger now. I can help both worlds understand each other. The next day, the most unusual alliance in New Terra's history began working together. Human engineers modified sonic equipment under Crystal Song's guidance, adjusting frequencies based on sounds only the pack could hear properly. Dae Choi organized mixed teams of humans and pack members, learning to coordinate through Hana's translations. Dr. Su Lee worked directly with Moonwhisper, sharing scientific knowledge while learning about forest ecology from someone who had lived it for decades. The exchange of ideas created solutions neither side could have developed alone. When the final attack came, the defense was ready. Sonic generators placed throughout the forest created a network of calming sounds that disrupted the Veil Reapers' coordination. Human weapons handled the insects that made it through the sound barriers, while pack hunters used their speed and knowledge of the terrain to outmaneuver the enemy. The battle lasted 3 days, but the alliance held. Humans and pack fought side by side, each group contributing their unique strengths to the effort. When the last Veil Reaper retreated to the deep caves, both communities had won something more valuable than victory. They had learned to trust each other. In the weeks that followed, New Terra became the first human colony with official alien partners. Hana spent her time moving between both communities, helping them communicate and learn from each other. Her unique abilities made her the perfect ambassador between worlds. The Whispering Woods began to heal as humans and Pack worked together to restore the damaged crystal formations. New plants grew where the sonic generators had been placed, creating permanent guardians against future Veil Reaper outbreaks. Hana Kim had been lost in the forest as a frightened human child. She returned as something new, a bridge between species, proof that cooperation could overcome any challenge, and hope for a future where different worlds could become one family. The colony's motto, carved above the main gate, was changed to reflect their new reality, New Terra, where two worlds become one.